Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the training, learning, and development community, or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Thanks for joining us today. Wow, we've got a lot of people already in. I'm so sorry that we're late. It's almost perfect because, of course, we're going to be talking about kind of more technical stuff about being on camera, live stream, sort of being in a TLDcast. And my camera, my normal camera, which is a Sony a5000, like a mirrorless camera that I use, doesn't seem to be working this morning. And then two, my voice started doing that high pitchy thing, which some of you may or may not have listened to in recordings and in live broadcasts. I never knew that it was happening live, but it happened this morning, so I had to restart. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for being in here. I'm really excited to have my group of guests on screen with me today to talk about live streaming, to talk about being on camera, and just generally to talk about how to have fun and participate in a TLDcast. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular episode is because I've been getting questions lately from guests that are coming up asking, like, I'm a little nervous about being on screen, or how's this going to work? Is it going to be interview style? Do I need a presentation? And the rules are a little bit different with TLDcast. We always, from the beginning, wanted it to sort of be anti-webinar. We wanted it to be a conversation between people because we found that it's everybody else that tends to be the best resources for us within this community. And so that's why we do this. So we're going to get started. I am going to just do some quick intros for everybody that's on screen. I think that most of you that are regulars with TLDC know who Kristin and Cara and maybe Mike are, but I'm going to give them a chance to sort of introduce themselves. So Kristin, why don't we start with you? And you're on mute.
I know. Okay. So I am Kristen Hayden Safdie. I am a learning experience design, instructional design consultant. I'm a person who makes courses or whatever you need to change behaviors. And I think the first time I presented on TLDcast, Brent had me come on to talk about a project I'd been working on. It was a book. It was to talk about a theory of fun. And so we did a little book club because he had recommended this book in a chat. I'd come in and had been tasked with a project that seemed hard. It seemed a little scary. I was designing a game, which was something I hadn't done really before start to finish. It was a tabletop card game. And I asked for resources. He recommended the book. It was wonderful. And I came on to talk about it. And then I came on again to talk about the project because TLDcast had really kind of helped me through that project. It was something that was new and different. And this community really supported me and gave me, not just the skills, but the confidence I needed to get through it. And it ended up being great. And, the thing I look back on, I'm like, oh my gosh, glad I did that. So that's my TLDC history.
Nice. And Cara, probably one of our biggest supporters, and definitely somebody whose social and career trajectory has just been, sort of upward the entire time that I've gotten to know you. But tell us a little bit about yourself.
I mean, part of that's to you, Louise. I mean, I always try to give credit where credit is due. Mm-hmm. So, hi, if I don't know you, I'm Cara North. I am the head of a training department for a company that manufactures semiconductors. So, a little bit of a different industry for me. I've been in this role for about 5 months now, and it's pure chaos, but I'm actually loving every second of it in a weird way. I found TLDC in 2017. Can't believe it's been that long. And I feel like I've kind of grown up with TLDC. I mean, it's been a big part of who I am as a learning professional. And then I was able to meet a lot of great people through TLDC. I've met some of my probably best friends in the industry through this organization. And I will say that I feel like TLDC gave me a lot of confidence. And when I was trying to decide what my next career move was, because I've had conversations through TLDC and I've met people through TLDC, I felt confident to pivot into a leadership role, even though I still have imposter syndrome about it every single day. I do the best that I can, and that's all anyone can ask for. So very grateful for all the great experiences I've had here. Always recommend people to check out TLDC. Just even going through the archives is just like a wealth of information. But the conferences are fun, so I can't wait till we have conferences again. So both of them in Phoenix were just amazing, and I'm sad I missed the San Diego one too. But yeah, I just love TLDcast, love Louise, love a lot of the people here. So really excited to be here and talk about how important that this is, because I feel like there's a lot of opportunities here, especially if you're new to instructional design looking to pivot. I do think being comfortable on camera, seeing how things are produced on the back end is a tremendous opportunity, an experience you can actually get here. And I know that that's helped, again, make me feel more confident as a learning development professional. So really excited to talk more about it today.
Totally cool. Thank you so much, Cara. And then our last guest, Mike Sloat, and other than the producer and director of the NCPI, the Northern California Paranormal Investigators web series on YouTube, you guys can find that. Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself.
That's what you mentioned. Wow. I'm a video director, which these days means everything from pre-production to running the camera myself, directing talent, editing, all the way through. It's all DIY these days. I do everything from music videos and music documentaries to educational videos I've been doing for years, about half and half. Half of what I do is in the music industry and the other half is in e-learning and education. So I direct a lot of actors and musicians and people who've never been on camera before, and people like you guys who are on camera almost every day.
Right. And I do have to mention, so if any of you have been to an e-learning guild event, in the last 10 years or so, you may have seen Mike around, because Mike was their primary video person for those events, and also for a lot of the Adobe Learning Summits as well, and other events that were kind of latched on to guild events. And so if any of the videos that you see that are coming, that the guild has recorded, that is posted on their website for conferences, things like that, Mike more than likely either filmed it or produced it, or had a big hand in all of that stuff. But not only that, Mike has done a significant amount of video work in just e-learning with other companies outside of the guild, which I don't think a lot of people know that. And so Mike is a very much an established sort of video producer with other e-learning companies. So I thought it was important to bring Mike in today and sort of get sort of his opinions about getting in front of a camera and how he sort of manages talent. And so that's why he's here. And just so that you guys know, Mike and I have been friends for years and years and years, and hang out together often. So we're buds. So I'm going to start with Cara on this one. Cara, we're going to talk about getting comfortable in front of the camera. And, I was making a list of all the things that I thought you need to do when you're in front of a camera to sort of, to find some success. And a lot of it, I can just check off the boxes next to this list when I think about you. And I know that you have a background with Toastmasters, and I wanted to know if that has helped you at all. And if you could just sort of describe that a little bit.
I definitely don't think I deserve a gold star, but thank you. I appreciate it. I'll talk a little bit about Toastmasters, and I'll talk a little bit about being, I guess, here live streaming. But I made a pretty big decision like in 2015, 2016 to really get over my fear of public speaking. It's something that's kind of crippled me for a very long time. I'm sure other people can relate to it. And I even kind of have a mild stutter sometimes when I speak. And I thought if I went to a conference and spoke, I didn't want people to make fun of me or whatever. So I found Toastmasters and I put myself through it, and it gave me a lot of confidence. So I was part of Toastmaster for probably about a year, and then it got to be too much because the people that are like Toastmaster diehards, like they're ride or die, man, right? They go to Toastmasters every night of the week, and it was a little too much for me at that point. But I got out what I needed, really focusing on the power of pausing when you're speaking. You don't have to talk a million miles a minute. The power of just eye contact and the power of telling a story when you speak. So I'm very thankful for Toastmasters for that. Highly recommend their program. There's probably local Toastmasters near you if you I think they're global now. So yeah, but as far as the live streaming, I've actually went back and watched some of my earlier TLDcasts, and it's amazing just seeing how much I've grown and gotten better over it. And at the time, like, I felt pretty decent about what I was doing, but now looking back, it's kind of cringe worthy. So I think the big one for me as far as like getting ready for a live stream is, even if you mess up, it's natural. I think there's something very human about live streaming, right? I think there's something kind of endearing about seeing that I'm a human and I mess up or I have mistakes or I can kind of roll with the punches. And I think that resiliency and adaptability is not only good for this, but I think it's good for us to have in our careers. So I think that's probably one thing I would check off about live streaming is I'm more comfortable with the ambiguity, and I kind of expect something to happen that is going to go off of the script or whatever it is that I'm talking about for the day.
Nice. Quetzal mentioned that Toastmasters is awesome, but it's true. Ton of ride or die folks. What does that mean, ride or die?
Let's see here. How do I put this nicely without potentially offending somebody? Because it's only Tuesday and I don't want to do that yet this week. Basically, there are people that this is their life. Like, they put so much dedication and passion into Toastmasters to where they go to a club every night. They are officers in the various area. They're officers for the state, region, etc. So I mean, it is very much attracts these professional public speakers and that crew. So when I say ride or die, there's just kind of this cohort of people that Toastmasters is their life. And if you're coming in and casual, they might ask, well, why are you just doing one? Don't you want to do 2, 3, or 4 clubs? No, I have other things I need to do. So that's what I mean by that.
Totally get it. All right. So Kristin, I want to ask you, so you talked about your beginnings when you first broadcast. You were talking to Brent, and I remember that, and I remember the card game that you were developing. It seems so interesting, and it was definitely one of the reasons why I had asked for you to do regular broadcasts and to participate. I aspire to your pacing when you do when you host conversations. Is there anything that you did at all to help yourself through this? Because you are really good at it. There is sort of a level of evenness towards the broadcast that you do. But what did you do to get better at being on camera?
That's really funny, because when Cara just said that Toastmasters helped her learn how to take pauses and not speak a mile a minute, I thought, oh, maybe I should do Toastmasters, because that's how I see myself doing it. I feel like I go really quickly, but everything feels faster when you're presenting or talking to a screen. I also do a lot of hand gestures. I'm very, very self-conscious about that when I'm live streaming. The whole time in my head, I'm like, stop it. What do you do? Who are you talking? Why are you doing this? So all of the things that are happening in your head, as evidenced by what Luis just said, probably aren't happening in everyone else's head. And that's the thing you have to really, that's what I remind myself, to stay comfortable on camera. And it's kind of like Cara was saying, if I am recording video, my pacing would probably be terrible. I'm a mess. I have to record it 100 times. I go back. I hate how I look. My cat showed up, so now I have to re-record it. I can't do recorded video. All of the folks working on that for DevLearn right now, my heart goes out to them, because it's my nightmare. Live streaming, I'm fine, because whatever happens, oops, it's fine.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. That's sort of the beauty of live streaming, is you just you only have one take and that's it. Mm-hmm. And so speaking of recording, Mike, I know that you have probably done hundreds of interviews with the e-learning guild for speakers and different folks, just attendees. I've seen all the promos. I know that you're responsible for all of that stuff. Is there what advice do you offer people when they agree to be on camera, and if they say, I'm nervous, how do I do this? Is there anything like what is like one of the top things that you tell everybody?
Just to have a conversation. Try, if you can, pretend like the camera's not there, and just talk to either me or whoever's doing the interview. Just normal conversation. That's the number one thing, I think, is it doesn't have to be stiff and formal, and just talk, just be loose, and if that doesn't, if we have time, I usually try to have a conversation with the person beforehand and get an idea of what they like to talk about, and then, okay, let's steer it that direction, and then they'll be more comfortable.
Do you have any examples of, like, say, doing an interview with a particular speaker from an event that was just having a really, really tough time, and they just needed to be sort of talk through it, and you were able to successfully get a decent interview out of them? I'm just thinking about all those times that you'd be, in a hotel room or something, or in a conference room at an event, and some of those interviews that you had to do.
I tried to do an interview with Cara after she won this huge award at a guild thing, and she was it was impossible. Couldn't get a word out of her. Just screaming and crying the whole time.
So no way to resolve that situation.
No, give her a shot of whiskey and party. I can't. Nobody really comes to mind as far as the big guild events.
Yeah.
How
about like with music videos, and even some of the films and documentaries that you've done? Anything that from those instances where you've had to help people get through kind of that camera discomfort?
I used to do a lot of work with Cengage Publishing. They do college textbooks. And for a long time, like late 90s all the way through the 2000s, we did communication scenarios for one of their communication textbooks. And we would need a lot of actors. So a lot of times we'd just go on Craigslist and say, we need this, and let's list everybody we needed. And it got towards the end, it kind of got to where we weren't really checking resumes and demo reels, which is dangerous, and got a couple of stinkers in there where they could not remember the lines. They could not loosen up at all on camera, and literally had to take them aside and say, what's going on? You got to just do this like a conversation. And a few times it didn't even work. And we would have to just shoot it and then swap out actors later and redo it because it just didn't work. So, sometimes it doesn't work at all. Just depends on the person and the situation.
Wow. That's interesting. And so that's very different from, like, say, a live stream scenario where you just have to go for it, and you have to be willing to kind of just jump in, and that's how I sort of think about the stream, is sort of like swimming. Like you either sink or you swim, and you just can't let the idea of being in front of people, like on camera, like just paralyze you. You just have to really go for it. And so, Cara, I'm wondering, you had mentioned before about how you've gone back and you've looked at some of your recordings. That is one of the hardest things for me to do, which is tough because I have to watch and listen to myself on a regular basis when I post, these broadcasts. I just get so cringy when I see myself. But what is that experience like for you? How do you sort of how do you absorb it, and what do you get out of being able to review your work?
Great question. So I think at first, like earlier when I was, kind of getting more comfortable with it, I was very, very hard on myself going back and looking at a lot of it. And, now that I'm, a little bit more comfortable about it, I say to myself, I often tolerate language that I tell myself that I wouldn't tolerate other people saying about me. And so why am I saying that about myself? So I think it's difficult, but I think that I've always just looked at it as like a growing experience. And for me, if I'm like doing something, I'm putting something out there, I want feedback on it. And if I'm not getting feedback, then how am I growing as a person? I'm not. So, I definitely want to practice what I preach there, kind of eat my own dog food, if you will, because that is something I tell a lot of people that, you need to constantly be getting feedback. And I also want to do that for myself. So the big things I looked at were, first of all, like, am I dressed appropriately? And what I mean by that is, I have some really loud outfits on. If you go back, like, I like bright colors. Also love the color blue, but then I know now, like, if I'm going to be on camera, I'm not going to wear blue because look, I have blue behind me and I look like I'm part of the wall, right? So just things like that I didn't really give a lot of thought of before. Now I give a little bit more thought to my fashion choices. And then also too, even though like my cat is right here and he is really wanting to hop up here and jump and be part of the video, it's cute, but it can also be distracting. So like going back, because I did lose my cat earlier this year and seeing how big of a role that he had in a lot of my videos, it was very hard to kind of see that. Like it was good, but it was also hard just dealing with it. But then I was like, well, but what if somebody like doesn't like cats? Like, is that really, I don't know. I looked at it two ways. One, is it opening myself up and showing people who I am as a person, what's important to me, versus am I being professional by having a cat in here? So for me, at the end of the day, my cat wants to hop up here, my cat's going to hop up here, right? Because that's who I am. That's the environment that I work in. So I definitely feel a whole lot more open, I think, and transparent than I think I maybe did before. Because I think before I thought a lot about, well, what are people going to think about this that I'm saying? But now it's like, I am who I am. You either like it or you don't, and I can't really be bothered by what other people think.
Interesting. Very cool. Kristin, so when you go live on camera, do you ever go back and sort of review your work as a broadcaster? No.
Nope. I've had to spend a lot of time editing my own voice, and I feel like I'm good at hearing my voice. I'm done. I've heard it.
Yeah.
I know I should go back, especially with video, but I've never found the time in my day to say, why don't I just watch myself for a bit and just judge harshly. I would welcome feedback from others. Please DM me, email me, but that is not one of the things I want to do in life. But kind of to Cara's point, I have gotten a little bit more relaxed, partially, I think, because of the pandemic. So right now, my lighting is not good. And my lighting's not good because I'm in my mom's basement, because I have to work in my mom's basement because my daughter's upstairs and I can't leave the basement. And so the lighting's not good. I haven't, convinced my mom to change around her basement to make lighting better. And so, last week for Learning Dev Camp, I had a ring light here. I had a second monitor. I had everything up. And, taking that up and down every day, I can't do that during the pandemic. And I stopped, normally I'd cover my arms up. I don't anymore for calls and things like that. Unless I feel like tattoos are going to be distracting. If I'm trying to teach something, I usually cover them up to avoid distraction. But I've relaxed a lot with, the amount of cats I'll let into frame and stuff like that in the past 6 months.
Absolutely. And it is such a strange thing now because, well, for me, I feel like I've had to unlearn a lot of habits that I've built over the years. When I was at the eLearning Guild, the first time we started doing webinars was like in 2005. There was this software called Illuminate, which I think is now Blackboard, that we sort of brought into the fold and started producing the online forums way back then. And there was a format that we kind of created that I am having to unlearn now, which is nowadays, it's basically like a standard webinar format of kind of lecture based and presentation stuff and how you conduct yourself. But it's hard for me to get out of that mode and just kind of be more authentic and be more casual about producing these, because my goal with the TLDcasts is just really to find ways of connecting with people and to provide some consistent programming that is interesting for folks that they'll be able to take something away from, and also are going to be willing to come back to later on and find value in it. So yeah, it's interesting how the pandemic has sort of shifted our behavior in front of camera now. I think it's a lot more loose. So Mike, I want to talk about some really basic things that somebody that is going on camera might be able to do just to get some of their technical issues out of the way. Like I see that you have an interesting background. The lighting is great in there. As a video producer, a video director, what are some of the considerations that are just flying through your head, just saying, how am I going to frame this? Like, what are there things that you think about to make sure that you have that stuff taken care of?
Oh, geez. I mean, lighting is always number one for me, at least. Especially now, like since the pandemic and all my event work has gone away, I've done a lot of music videos for some reason. A lot of people are producing music videos, and that's all about lighting and camera movement. So it's where are we going to put the lights and how can we move the camera around them and around the talent? That's always number one for me.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Is there anything on live streams in particular that you might notice that, like, I don't know how much you participate in this type of a format, but is there any other recommendations you might make to people that are doing live streaming?
I haven't done a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's my third one on, with you, and that's pretty much my experience with it.
Because I remember I saw recently an interview that you did with somebody. It was on like a music blog of some sort. I'm not sure.
Soundwave?
Yeah, it might have been on Soundwave or something, and they interviewed you specifically. I don't know if it was because the Machine Head videos or exactly what it was about, or the guitar building. But is there anything like, so you're saying that lighting is super important, but how about camera angles and sort of interest in the background, stuff like that? Is that something that you really focus on when you're framing stuff?
Yeah, definitely with a pre-recorded thing, with setting up the lights and setting everything. With a stream, I don't know. I think it's a lot less formal. Most of the time, we're all in our offices right now, and there's not much I'm not going to take stuff off the walls just to make a plain gray background.
Right.
But I probably wouldn't do that anyway. I would probably want some kind of. I mean, it's a whole different thing. The cameras are completely different than what I use for an interview or a music video or something like that. Completely different. So, yeah, it just depends on the situation, really.
I'm wondering also about, I know that with your kids, they're probably participating in Zoom classes. Do you do anything with them at all to help them be more successful with that experience, or is it just like go?
I just stay away. I walk down the hall and I hear, "I'm starting my Zoom, don't bother me," and I just walk outside into my office.
Okay, it's good to know. Good to know. I do the same. I have I can see my son right now who's just getting started with his Zoom classes. But I have to add, my wife is a lot more cognizant of that stuff, and so she wanted to make sure that he had a really interesting background that was playful and that kind of represented who he was. And so there's an area in our house where she had this art project with his art behind him, and like a tree branch that she grabbed from our big oak tree in the backyard that she hung up on the wall, and hung like a lot of decorations, like these little paper garlands that she made and things. So I do think that as far as backgrounds are concerned, if you have the time to be able to create something that is of interest and sort of speaks a little bit about you, it's worth doing that when you're broadcasting and doing a live stream. So, and I know, like, being in the basement, Kristin, it's probably hard to do that, but do you ever sort of?
Well, I was going to say that's a quilt my mom made. And so I'm in my mom's sewing room. So it actually has all of these great things that she's made. There's a weird thing full of colored pencils that I don't understand.
Mhm.
But I have moved things because they were distracting. There was this, she has a little collection of chickens, and I was on a call with someone internally, and they were like, "Is that like a chicken army? What's that there?" And so I had to move them because it just kept distracting people. So it's a really fine line, like we were saying, there's an element of, especially now, just you can't try that hard for everything you do to make it perfect because nothing's going to be perfect, but you have to find the line between what's distracting. Like, my lighting is terrible. Is that distracting or just unprofessional?
Right.
And I'll go towards the unprofessional line. I try not to go towards the distracting line. And that's my big decision point when I'm figuring out what to let go.
Nice. I'm going to go through some ideas here about being good on camera, and I'm going to go ahead and just sort of throw these at you guys, see what kind of responses you get. Cara, I'm going to start with you. Being yourself on camera during a live stream.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally think you need to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, that's me. That's my MO, I guess. But I know some people are maybe afraid to do that. But I mean, I like being myself.
Nice. Yeah. It's absolutely, I think it's critical to really try to get that feeling of authenticity out. And then, we're going to talk in a little bit, start talking about how to sort of, be a part of chat as well. And I think that piece is going to, I want to bring that up as in that conversation too. And Kristin, prepping early and practicing, is that something that you ever did for these?
It's not. I prefer kind of to that authenticity. What I tend to do for TLDC is case studies. And I've found that there have been times where I've gotten together with people beforehand to learn about it, and then I'm struggling in the moment to react naturally, because what I want is to learn about it at the same time as the audience, so that I can kind of channel the audience questions they might have and just naturally dig into things. If I do that beforehand, I already know the answers, so I'm not finding them out in front of the audience, and I think it loses value. And it's a thing that I struggle with because I feel like I should be. Of course, I should prepare more ahead of time. I think with Joe, we did a little bit of prep, but I caught myself before I learned too much in order to keep it authentic, because it's hard to, after I already know the answer. You can tell podcasts and things where they've gone through the questions and answers beforehand and they're just reciting them again and editing them together and making sure. And I just don't like listening to it, so I don't want to do it. So I err on the side of learning with the audience is what I call being unprepared.
I love that. Cara, have you ever do you ever practice at all? Do you ever because I have seen, tips where you just get on your smartphone and talk into it, record yourself, and then watch the recording, just to get comfortable with that perspective. Also Snapchat to create I know I have 0 friends or followers or whatever on Snapchat, but just to go on there, do that stuff as you're going around town or throughout your day, and just to practice that way. Is that anything you've ever done?
No, I am with Kristin. I should probably think about it more. Really, the closest I got to it was on Memorial Day. I got this influx of LinkedIn messages of people saying, please help me I want to be an instructional designer. So then I did a live stream of the entire instructional design process from start to finish. It was 8 hours, and I built it as we were going. And looking back now, I'm kind of cringing looking at it. But again, people didn't know. People thought I was really prepared and had everything together, but in the background, everything was kind of on fire. So kind of impressive. I pulled it off, but looking back, I'm like, I should have done that a little bit better maybe. But yeah, again, to Kristin's point, I'm not doing case studies, but I want to be kind of unfiltered and have that authentic reaction to whatever it is that I'm talking about that day. I do prepare a little bit if I'm talking about something a little bit more formal. So I did something where I talked about, should you get a degree in instructional design? And I really want to think about questions people should ask if they're looking at the program. So I did want to prepare something around that. And I also wanted to make sure that my own biases of going through that process. It didn't necessarily, I want to make sure your mileage may vary. These are my experiences, make your own decision came through. And I think if I wouldn't have prepared, it probably would have been more negative than it ended up being.
Nice.
I remember that because I was on that and I thought, oh, Cara has slides. But I think it might be a product of us kind of starting out a little bit during TLDC, because I very much, I have a philosophy when I present, especially virtually, that if I don't have a co-presenter, the audience is my co-presenter. So I need their reactions. I need the audience participation in order to deliver whatever value I'm trying to deliver. So it's very hard to practice that because I don't want to just deliver value in a bubble. I don't want to do something that could have been an email or could have been a video. The value is in the back and forth, and you can't practice that.
Nice. All right, Mike, I got one for you. So when you're working with talent, or say even just these interviews that you might do at events, do you ever tell people that to role play for confidence, to pretend that there's somebody else to be able to get through talking on camera? Because I've heard that is like a tip to be able to get more comfortable on the camera. Just sort of pretend that you're somebody that's super confident and just go for it.
No.
No, never.
I haven't. No. That's interesting. No, never done.
That's funny. For some reason, that feels like a piece of advice that you would offer people, but I guess not. And my next question for you is, so when I see your guitar videos and see the videos you produce yourself where you're talking, do you write a script, or do you just go by outline, or how do you do that?
Oh, totally write a script. Yeah. I have to prepare because I will completely stumble through something if I don't have it in front of me. And I think I actually had taken a lot of acting classes when I was in film school. I ended up taking like 2 acting classes the 3 years, and then one before I even started film school. So I took probably 5 or 6 acting classes. So I feel like I can sort of jump into, like you're saying, someone else. I could be like a character almost. And that helps a lot.
Yeah. Wow. So I had no idea that you took acting classes in film school. That kind of
it was required. It was required to know, as a director, how to talk to an actor. An actor doesn't want to be told, just do it like this. They want to be kind of coaxed into a direction of finding it themselves for the most part.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really
good. We use that quite a bit for just even interviews, like I was saying, to have a conversation with someone before we start an interview, listen to what they're passionate about, and then, okay, that's it. Let's drive it that direction. And not even tell them most of the time. Just let them, hey, we talked about this before we got on camera. Tell me about this again. Same type of thing, really.
Do you did you learn anything about how to prep for working with talent in film school? Like with actors and things?
Mostly just in how to talk to them. Really, that was it. I mean, beyond that, I can't think. It was so long ago. I can't even remember. But yeah, it's mostly just how to talk to them, how to talk to people, and not just actors, people that are going on camera. I think it goes all between everybody, anyone that's going on camera. There's lots of tricks like that to use.
Yeah, I think that from what I've seen, there's some people that I feel like are really, really good on camera, and usually they have a background in acting or drama, or have done this before. And I sort of want to bring this up because, well, like for instance with J-Rock, I think for some reason I feel like I saw a YouTube video of J-Rock on stage in theater, and I saw that Adam Weisblatt also was saying that he does performance, and I thought that I would be better at this because I am I sing for a band, and have done it for years, and I think I was able to get going with this because I did that, but I'm never comfortable being in front of camera and trying to talk and struggle through these things. It's just I think it's just my nature. I would much rather have somebody else like doing a lot of the talking most of the time. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like asking all of these questions. Okay, let's see. Do you guys have any other just real quick tips? Go ahead.
Can I ask a question of the chat related to that? Has anyone in the chat had the experience where they needed to film someone who did a lot of classroom training, and the former classroom trainer said, I don't need a script. I did this 8 hours a day for years. I'm good. I'm ready. And then you put the camera in front of them and they just freeze and cannot for the life of them. That is, I think that must be everyone here has had that experience. It's awful. And it's, I think Mike was saying earlier, having that conversation beforehand, even if you know the person really well, even if you work with them, is so important. I did lots and lots of sitting with a SME doing screen recordings and just recording his voice. Not the camera took a very long time, but even just recording his voice, he would always get into laughing fits. If he made a mistake, it was 5 minutes of nervous laughing. And so I had to get like tricks to break him out of that, and then go back and edit all of that audio, which is why I can't listen to myself now. And I was worried listening back, I'm going to sound really irritated because I remembered how irritated I felt, but I never actually heard it on the audio. But yeah, figuring out what that particular SME needs and just building in 2 hours for every hour you need recorded is the biggest thing.
I love that. I want to hear, I would love to hear stories about that. I'm kind of looking at Mike and wondering, you had to have run into that.
We, so my partner and I have done a lot of math videos. We've done like calculus and just everything, every kind of math video, instructional video, like hours and hours of it for textbooks to accompany textbooks. The last one we did a few years ago, this professor came in, he's just fast talking, just kind of obnoxious, and said exactly that. I don't need a script. No, well, we've got a script. The publisher gave us the script. Well, okay, I guess I'll try to follow it. He got in front of camera and he couldn't even, this is math. It had to be accurate. He couldn't even do accurate calculations on camera. He had this giant pad, this huge pad that he was using. So it was basically him and then his pad work up in the corner above him, over his shoulder. And he's doing all this work. He couldn't get anything right. And, we figured he was doing it correct. We're not mathematicians. We don't know what he's talking about. So we referred to the script. Hey, you said this is X minus 2 here. Should it be X minus 3? No, I got it. And, long story short, it was all wrong. And it all had to be redone or voiced over because he just got in front of the camera and was like, "Duh!" Just couldn't do it.
Wow.
Absolutely terrible. And he didn't prep at all beforehand. He didn't do anything beforehand.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge part of it is you've got to prep beforehand.
Yeah.
For something like that in particular. And I know for myself, unfortunately, this morning with my camera going out and my audio problems, which is just so funny and ironic. I should have started earlier, but I was kind of up late last night, kind of coming up with some of these questions and some of these pieces. And so of course, though, it all just, it's very typical of what may happen during a live stream, that you're kind of, that you find especially like important. Everything can go absolutely wrong. And if there's one thing that I can, that I want to stress is that just try to make sure that all these other things in your environment are taken care of so that when it's time to actually go live, you can just focus on that immediate moment and what is going on with the conversation you're having and the content that you're presenting and the topic at hand. It's really, really important. So I want to move on now and just talk about what happens in chat. Now, TLDcast, the broadcast that we do here, this is not typical. Like, and it's one of the reasons why I love Crowdcast, and it's hard for me to think about ever like finding another platform. And one of the reasons why I really thought that this was the best way to go was because I wanted to let people just run amok in chat. But there can be issues sometimes now, and I don't run into them very often, but I had mentioned in an email to Kristin and Cara earlier was that, last week when we were talking about Adobe Captivate Prime with Craig Seibert, we had somebody that had come in, and I'm just going to say his username was OKTutor, and he was kind of spamming. Like, I would say the behavior was consistent with like, check out my website and, message me and connect with me. And it was just he was just doing that over and over again. Some of you guys were there and remember what that was like. And so I wanted to say, like, when you are in the chat area, like, one of the things that I think is really important to like how to present yourself is to actually not have your business or your organization as your username. It really should be like your name and who you are as a person, and ideally a picture of yourself so that we know that you're an actual human being. And that to me is a really, really big thing nowadays, because especially if you're on Twitter or if you're in other social networks where there are just random agents out there that you have no clue whether or not they're a bot or something else, or someone misrepresenting themselves. Being authentic in chat is super important. Cara, do you have any other? Would you add anything about conducting yourself in the in the live chat area?
Sure. So I will say I'll give you examples of when I'm not on camera and then when I am on camera. So when I'm not on camera, I love to talk in the chat for various reasons. One, I like to welcome people. I know that sounds weird, but I always try to see who pops in. I'm like, hello, blah, 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 hello, blah, 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 because it could be somebody's first time. And, I like for people to at least feel welcome, or, hey, somebody saw me, whatever. But I also feel like that's where you can really make some deep connections in the chat. So I know J Rock is here. So I know Alan Nottichu, sadly, I don't think is here. But, we had this running joke forever about Alan Nottichu's hair because it's beautiful. And we imagine like this beautiful commercial with him. And it's like, maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's not a tube, right? So that was like our little joke. And it kept going for so long. But now, yeah, there you go, J Rock. But I feel like that gave me and J Rock a deeper connection. And then also, we really like Alan. And so we're able to really make those connections. And that's what I love about the chat in this platform. And then as somebody that's on camera, I love calling out comments in the chat. To Kristin's point earlier about the folks participating being your co-presenters, I rely very heavily on the comments in the chat, because I don't want to just spew stuff if it's not really hitting what people need, or if they have a question or something. I'd love to say, hey, I see you're talking about blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So I love this platform too. I've been kind of starting to stream some a little bit on my own. And the reason I really love it is you can actually follow people, and then you basically opt into notifications. So when I go live, if you follow me, it like lets you know, which I think is really neat. I don't see any other platform doing that. So I think that's another unique thing about Crowdcast, is that you can kind of make those deeper connections.
Nice. Kristin, do you have any advice for people that are in chat? I know that like you participate regularly, and just wondering if you have any advice on how to get the most out of it.
I love the chat, and I think it's very true that in TLDC, as a participant or a presenter, there are often two presentations going on. There are two channels, and there's what's happening on video, and then there's what's happening in chat. And that can get, as a presenter, you just need to bridge the two. You don't need to feel like you have to control the chat. You have to like get everyone on track. Or even one of the things you have to fight a little bit at first is, oh no, are they not paying attention to me? Because they're talking about Alan's hair. Am I being very boring? Am I not? But that's a form of engagement. And helping people build those connections in chat is just as important as whatever you're giving. They can always listen back to the video. They can't listen back and participate in the chat. So I kind of almost give precedence to what's going on in chat and just try to bridge it, bring in things that need to be in the video, but don't feel like I have to acknowledge everything going on because, you know, that's their conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just a visitor.
I have to say, you know, just generally my role on TLDC when I'm on is kind of being a facilitator or host. And sometimes there's stuff going on chat that I really wish that I could engage in, but it would just completely throw me off. So, you know, like J Rock is mentioning, he is just somebody that I don't know why, but sometimes he can just post one sentence and it'll just completely knock me off my feet, and I cannot stop thinking about being a learning stylist or something like that. So the use of humor in there, but it keeps the audience engaged, and really the focus of what TLDC is trying to do is just to get people to get to know each other human beings, because every other place online, especially like somewhere on Twitter, you're not quite sure whether or not some of these people you're engaging with are actual human beings. And I feel like this is a place that you can come to and say, okay, that's a person. And, you know, if I had their phone number, I could call them right now and actually have a conversation with them. Mike, I'm wondering about, you have actually posted videos on YouTube that have had thousands and thousands of views. And I'm wondering how you deal with like conversations, like with comment spam and people that might not, you know, that might disagree with what you've done or have like something harsh to say about you, or even positive something to say about you. Is there any particular mode that you've kind of taken, or advice you'd give for people that, you know, that have to deal with that?
I've totally ignored it. I learned early on, excuse me. When I first started, one of the big bands I've worked with is Machine Head. They're a metal band from the East Bay, and they have a lot of fans all around the world who are really passionate about the band and the music. And I think like the second or third video I did for them around like 2006, 2007, I got death threats from people in Europe who said, "Your videos are terrible. I can't believe you get to work with this band. If I ever met you on the street, I would break your neck." And they were all from Europe, so they're really broken English. It was pretty funny. But I'm not going to engage with people like that and try to convince them otherwise. It's rare that I'll go to a video and look at the comments, because I learned early on that people are mean when they're anonymous. They're just so mean. And
that's I think that's kind of the point, is that anonymity really contributes to some negative behavior, I think, from a lot of folks. So that's a great point. I'm going to tell you, like, sort of one of the things that I would try to avoid, and I'm thinking about this person from OK Tutor, because what I did was, it sort of disturbed me, that behavior that happened last week. But I wanted to sort of at least research and give the guy a chance, sort of just figure out, look, what's the deal here? I was lucky enough to work. I have to say that when I worked at the e-learning guild, David Holcomb, who's the CEO, he really kind of taught me how to be patient with people and to really understand like what their motivation is and where they're coming from before you really start to make a judgment about a certain situation. I really wanted to do that with this guy. And, you know, he's an interesting character. I just sort of browsed the web and really did some research on him. But, you know, that authenticity point is really kind of important for him, for one. And then also, when you're in chat, if you really want to engage with people, don't just like post single word like interesting or, you know, nice, or, you know, just, you know, general sort of comments. It's really helpful to be more specific about the space that you're using in chat to either contribute or something, like either of support or advice, or just like be a part of the conversation, versus just, you know, throwing out some comment that is kind of useless. And like Kitzal was saying in that particular broadcast, he was wondering whether or not the guy was a bot because of the way that behavior was. And so when you are engaging in there, try to be a part of the conversation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And altogether, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add to that. A lot of us, I think, are, come from participating in Twitter a lot. And similarly, you have to add value as much as you take value. And things like, learn chats and guild chats, where I think a lot of people are active, it's similar. And so the skills you learn from Twitter transfer into chat here, and that transfers into, if your workplace uses Slack. It's all, just being a real person, adding value, making the place better.
Right. No, I totally agree. And it feels like it's getting harder to kind of find spaces that honor that, just personally. And that's one of my main goals with what we do here, is to make sure that we, that we are respectful to one another, just don't be a jerk. And I am actually pretty patient with most folks, but like last week, it was just really an interesting situation. And, we've been doing this for 4 years. And that was kind of the first time that we've ever had somebody come in with that type of behavior. And so, I wanted just to bring it up in this particular broadcast. And like Cara's saying, there is lots of noise out there right now. And I am going to end this. Well, one, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. You three of definitely some of my favorite people. And so I'm really honored to have you on. But I also want to say, one of the reasons why I want to do this broadcast is because I want to do some more member showcases. And I do them for free, but then TLDC actually does need some support for membership. And so if you guys are interested in doing a member showcase and want to support us, please join as a member. Here's a coupon code to get half off the, I feel like this total commercial right now. This is so uncomfortable for me. But
are you spamming us right now?
I'm like, hey, I'm trying to sell you guys something. But if you can't join as a member, use that code support TLDC. You'll get 50% off the membership price. All of this stuff. I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. I try to keep this as independent as possible. And so that's one of the reasons why I am, going to start looking for sponsorship, because I really want to start expanding the way that we're doing the program and some of the other offers that we have, but I need some resources. So please, if you can, join us as a member. Go to thetldc.com and you'll find the membership thing, or tldc.us where I'm keeping the blog now. And I would love to have you on a showcase, because I want everybody to get to know each other. I want as many members as possible to be on our website, to show that they're actual human beings, and that we have a legit community of real people. That's super important to me. That's kind of my goal with TLDC altogether. And I love having conversations with new people. It makes this entire thing worth it. And to have conversations like this. And with that, there's Avi's a bot. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. So thanks again, you guys. This next Thursday, we're going to have Christiana and Mike Peacock are going to be on to talk about Exonify in the LMS playlist. I'm looking forward to that. And then next week, we have another LMS one with Leslie Marquez. And I actually have a community discussion coming up about getting the most out of LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to participate in that one, I would love to have more guests on that. I've got Toddy, I think, is already going to jump in on that one. So Cara, anybody else, would love to hear what your tips are for getting the most out of LinkedIn. And with that, thank you all, and we'll see you later.
Bye, Louise.
Bye.
Great to see you.
Hi, everyone.
See you guys.
I love the art behind you. I've been admiring it.